Hey folks, hey, Kilt-Man here. How are you all? Hope you're doing well. October is here. Yes, indeed. The time of Halloween. The time to be pounced on by a husky dog, which is here right now, getting in the way once again. I am going to have to set up some kind of Roxy exclusion zone around here, but I'm sure she'll find a way to get away in. Anyway, as I say, Halloween, that time of year. And Kilt-Man, at this time of year, likes to watch horror movies. Sort of every night leading up to Halloween. To be honest, he watches horror movies all year round. But they take on a special meaning and have far more atmosphere this time of year. So, without further ado, I will commence now with a little snapshot review and critique of what's going to be the start of a little series throughout this month of horror movie reviews with Kilt-Man. Ooh. Sorry, I'm stroking the dog's head here. That's not a euphemism for anything else. I genuinely am stroking a dog's head here. Lift your head up. Roxy, dog smell. There you go. Right, and tonight's offering is a little tasty occult supernatural number from 1962. It is called Night of the Eagle. That's probably reversed there, but you know, you get the gist. Ah, screaming woman. Big title, Night of the Eagle. Black and white, although a lot of films were obviously in colour at this time, this period, but they've gone for budgetary reasons, they've gone for black and white, and very atmospheric, moody photography you get as well. Story centres around the great Peter Wingard. This is the guy that played, Jason King in the very camp, highly sexed TV show from that era, with that sporting the long hair and the big, medallion man, Tash, and all that kind of stuff. He was also the voice and the actor of Clytus in the enormously great fun and super camp Flash Gordon from Dino De Laurenti, with Sam J. Jones playing the titular Flash. Flash! Ah! That one. Clytus was Ming the Merciless's, henchman with the gold mask on, who gets thrown onto the spikes and his face just oozes out. Which was a shame because Peter Wingard was a very good looking fella. But his voice was iconic, which is why he became such a household name during the 60s and 70s. Now he plays the school teacher, Norman, who's doing very, very well at this English high school. He's on the fast track. This guy's he's celebrated. I think he's a professor of psychology, because the first time you meet him, he is debunking the occult and supernatural magic and all sorts of superstition. But it's all bunkum, everything's in the mind. Belief in yourself, in your mind, your grey cells is what matter. Little voodoo dolls with pins in them mean nothing. Boy, is that statement going to come back and bite him on the ass throughout this movie. His wife Tamsin, played by, what's her name? Janet Blair. Lovely wife. She's a beautiful wife. He's on the up and up. His name is renowned in these sort of scholarly circles. He's earmarked for the big job, the up and coming job. But there are people opposed to him and his rise to fame and glory. And these are the headmistress of the school and her cohorts, her cackling cohorts. These people meet up at Norman's house and Tamsin's house to play bridge every Friday. Norman's very happy to do all this sort of stuff because he thinks he's doing really well. He's happy with his lot. But there's a reason for this, because unbeknownst to him, the guy who debunks all the occult and black magic, his wife is a witch. And she's been protecting him and ensuring his success with little amulets and talisman and things around the house to make sure that, these other people, headed up by the headmistress, played by Margaret Johnson. I've got to keep referring to the cover of the DVD. It's only on DVD. There is no Blu-ray of this. Damn it. But one day, hopefully, there might be. Because this headmistress and her cohorts do not like him. They don't like these strangers coming into their realm and sort of taking over. And each time they come into the house, they try to leave some kind of black magic symbolism or that little black magic token here, there, and everywhere, which is going to spell downfall for him. And it's only thus far that Tamsin's protective spells have ensured their safety. Anyway, what happens is this Norman discovers one of these little talismans, the protective things, and despite some strange goings on initially, which he just dismisses, and he makes her confess to what she's done. And he searches the house and he finds all these, and there's a lot of them, in every room, in every drawer, under the mattress, under the pillow, in his socks, for God's sake, everywhere. On his toothbrush, no, I'm making this up. There's always a protective talisman. He makes her burn them all. And she confesses, look, you've doomed yourself here. You might not believe what I'm telling you, but you're in trouble, boy. And the devil and his cackling sisters will come for you. I'm powerless to save you now, sort of thing. Now, you've already met in his class. There's a female student. These are all like sort of late teens, you know. Got a crush on him quite clearly. She's doing really well, and he kind of takes her under his wing, and he knows that she can go far. But in so doing, he's incurring the wrath of her boyfriend, who's curiously played by an American. And this guy does not get on with Norman at all, so Norman actually tries to get him evicted from the class, possibly the school as well. So there's already someone who's out for his blood, literally out for his blood. Anyway, once all these protective tokens and talisman and spells have been broken and removed, shit hits the fan. He gets a distressing phone call from this girl that fancies him. All of a sudden, she's now being dirty and on the line to him, and making suggestive ideas and stuff of what she wants to do. He hangs up. Next day in school, oops a daisy, straight to my office, because there's been a complaint about you. You have molested and assaulted this girl. I did nothing of the sort. Of course, she's there, she complains, and they actually do use the word rape as well, which for 1962 and this type of, pot-boiling horror chiller, it's kind of a bit outrageous, really, but they do use that term. Anyway, she's clearly lying, and what the film fails to make clear is that she's been kind of under a spell to do this, to set him up. You kind of get the impression that that's the case, but the film doesn't really bring that across too well. After he says his piece to her, I've done nothing wrong, you are mistaken, what's wrong with you? He storms off to his room and in the school, and he's confronted by her boyfriend, who's now got a gun. Oh shit, things aren't going too well for him all of a sudden. When yesterday he was like the champion of the world. Now he's, sex pest. And this guy's got a gun on him. Now, he too is clearly under the influence of some kind of magical suggestion. But Norman manages to disarm him, and, the whole thing sort of comes out in the wash. But as you know, as well as I do, that if that kind of accusation's thrown at you, it kind of shit sticks, doesn't it? More things happen. More weird things. More phone calls. A tape. A vintage cassette recording, actually on proper tape, which he has to spool on, which purports to be one of his lectures in, I think, Manchester, which he conducted a while ago. And he says, Tamsin, I want you to hear this, because this is me saying about people like you and your crazy obsessions and how it's all in the mind. But when they play it, there's a weird sound on it. You hear his voice, you hear him giving the lecture, but there's a weird sound, there's kind of music playing. Tamsin recognises it for what it is, and it's another spell, another attack on them. So she makes him turn it off and all this, and my wife is crazy man, and he's not too happy about all this. Later on, more things happen. Strange storm manifests itself at their house. There's a weird knocking and sound outside the front door. And as he goes to open it, which she's saying, Norman, don't open it, you'll die. And this weird music's still playing from this tape recording. He opens the door, there's a lightning blast, and he gets held back. But just in time, she manages to unplug the phone. And, the phone and the tape recorder. Unplug something. And the whole attack ceases. Now, the film is magnificently atmospheric. It's brilliantly acted. Peter Wingard is a marvellous actor, or I should say, was a marvellous actor. And he's got such a commanding face and such a commanding presence that you're really in the moment with him. But, all these strange things happen. No matter how sceptic you may be, they're going to mount up that, all of a sudden, everyone's against me, and there's weird noises outside the front door, lightning bolts, there's craziness on the tape recordings. They would add up, Anyway, this will culminate in his wife going, look, they've put a spell on you, a hex on you. You basically are going to die. And the only way, basically she goes missing the next day. He wakes up thinking everything's okay. And there's another recording, and she's saying, I'm going to have to give my life to save yours. This couple have a cottage out on the coast. It looks like somewhere down in Cornwall, or there's cliffs, picturesque cliffs, and it looks lovely. And he thinks she's going down there, so he motors on down in his sports car, finds the coach that she's on, tries to signal her, but she's in some kind of daze and she doesn't respond to him. And as he's Tamsin, beep, 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 Tamsin, whoa, shit, there's a truck coming towards him, whoa, swerves, goes into a ditch. Did I say spoilers ahead? Because when I'm reviewing some shit, I'm going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. So my advice really is to, if you show any interest in these movies I'm going to discuss, they're all going to be older movies, so chances are you may well have seen them. But if you haven't and you want to see them, just take my word for it. Go watch them and then come back and listen to the review. It's probably the safest way. Yeah. But yeah, he wakes up in a ditch, and of course time's ticking by. He knows that he's only got to like half 11 or midnight that night to say. I think it's 11:30 to save her, and but she's going to trade her life for his. He gets there, he can't find her, goes down to the beach, obviously, because, things always end up on the beach, these stormy cliffs and that. And he can't find her. He goes to this old decrepit church, and he breaks into a tomb, a mausoleum. And clearly he's now beginning to believe these things. He's read a few of her books, or glanced at the notes that she's left and worked out what she's going to do. And he gets some candles and he puts the candles out on top of this casket, puts a picture of her, sprinkles some earth over it, and he's trying to recall her. Time ticks by, she hasn't surfaced. He knocks them all aside. In the meantime, you've seen her doing that famous shot of these women who are going to commit suicide, strolling out into the surf under a full moon. The surf's kind of calm. It looks eerily, beautiful. Transcendental, in fact. And she walks out into this. He's now scooped all his stuff aside. Oh, despair. But she's come in because she hasn't killed herself. He turns around. Oh, Tamsin, you're alive. Oh, you Jesus Christ, you stink. Fish, fucking seaweed. What the fuck? Get back in that fucking sea, you horrible hagwitch from hell. No, he's all like, oh, I love you, I'm sorry I didn't believe you. They go back home, but of course, it's not over, because this film's called The Night of the Eagle. Now, at the school has all these, ornate statues and things, and they're all of like birds of prey, particularly this great big golden eagle. And that night he goes to the school to find evidence on the headmistress that she's been behind it all. And indeed he does, he finds evidence. And of course she then arrives as well, and then he springs on her and says, like, yeah, I know what you've been doing. And she casts another spell. He flees to go and because she intimates that there's going to be an accident back at the house. They're now back at their house in the village, not the cottage on the coast. The house in the village, not the cottage on the coast. And you've seen that while Tamsin's still asleep, recovering from all this ordeal, a semi-drowning, and their cat, a black cat, of course, has jumped up on the back of this chair and knocked something into the fire. The house begins to smoulder. So Norman realises, shit, doesn't quite know what's wrong, but something is definitely wrong. He needs to make a move back home. And he started playing that cassette recording, that tape recording of that sound. And of course, she kind of invokes the spirit of this great stone golden eagle. So it comes to life. And as he's trying to get through the school grounds to get to his car, this thing comes alive and pursues him. And it's a great bravura sequence of him legging it through the grounds, smashing his way back into the school, hiding in rooms and, running down corridors as this great... A lot of time you don't see it. It's implied this thing is there through great moody, spectacular photography, the flapping of great stone wings. But you do see some trick shots. He pegs it down this corridor, shuts and bolts this big, ornate sort of old Gothic door behind him. One of them oak wood with steel or iron studs in it. Shuts the bolt down, and in a great shot, a real eagle, and it obviously crashes through like a dummy door. And it's a great shot, like it's a great visual effect, for its time, and comes down the corridor after him. Pay attention to this sequence, because you'll see that Peter Wyngarde has an absolutely terrified look on his face, which is more than just acting. Because in reality, a lot of those scenes were shot with a real bird of prey swooping down at him and really, putting the frighteners on him. So and the great thing about Peter Wyngarde is not only his magnificent voice, but his face, very angular. He's a good-looking guy, but it's a very strange, angular sort of face with a huge, appropriately sort of beak of a nose, very, very strong aquiline nose. So it's almost like a bird of prey himself. And it looks tremendous, but his real fear, it really comes across, and you are genuinely, on the edge of your seat throughout this. Another little aside for Peter Wyngarde. Peter Wyngarde was he was a gay man, although a lot of the time he played a bit of a sex symbol, especially as Jason King. And so it's weird that, he manages to pull that off quite convincingly. But he had this fascination for wearing really, really tight trousers. So a lot of legends about this movie exist that, he refused to wear anything. The director, what's his name? I must find this guy's name. Sidney Havers, I think it is, or Sidney something. Sidney Hayers, I think it is. Insisted, look, you look stupid running around in these super tight trousers. Can you just put a pair of these big baggy clown pants on? And he refused. So a lot of shots you see is from the waist upwards, and he's panicking, and you can tell that they should be long shots, but they've done it on purpose to cut away the fact that he's wearing these super tight pants. Having said that, it's a semi-myth, because a lot of the sequences do clearly show him running around, scrambling around the cliffs, running through the school grounds, hurtling down school corridors, and he has clearly got exceptionally tight pants on. They were at the time. It was the early 60s. Come on, let him off. And so yeah, it all culminates in he manages to get back home in time to. Well, the house is burned down, but the fire brigade are there. Tamsin's actually woken up and got out, so she's safe. The spell's been reversed back on the headmistress, who, with her husband, walks out. Her husband's one of these, these soppy, wet guys who believes are good in everyone. He clearly doesn't know his wife's a black witch. And, don't worry, dear, I'll get the car. And she's got a bit of a peg leg, she's got a bit of her foot turns inwards, she has this sort of, this weird limp. And she's like, oh, okay, get the car. And anyway, this great stone eagle is above the doorway to the school, the main entrance of the school. And we hear this. That's not an eagle call. That's the grating of stone. And she looks up, and it just goes, whoa! Topples over, crunches hair, flat as a pancake. And she's been eagled. And so endeth the movie. And it's a magnificent piece of sort of 60s semi-gothic, occult, supernatural chills and spills. Very much in the uniquely sort of British vein of the ghost stories of that time, like The Haunting, like The Innocents, which are two magnificent movies, which I will cover at some point. And Night of the Eagle is very much like a lesser cousin of those two greats. Another one would be the awesome, magnificent Night of the Demon, which I'm going to cover in some depth very soon, which is probably one of my favourite films of all time. Again, dealing with the same sort of thing, demons, supernatural, and both moody black and white gothic chillers. But this, it's got some flaws, I will admit. The fact that Norman really doesn't respond to his wife's protests that you're in trouble, Norman. Lightning, thunder, these things. I found this. These are demonic emblems. They've been in our house. They've planted curses. You were great yesterday. Now you're a sex pest. And someone's trying to kill you, for God's sake. And he doesn't latch on. It's one of these profound skeptics that you get in these movies, even in the face of the most obvious, overt demonizing. He's still, no, there must be a logical explanation for this. Tamsin, you need take a pill, you'll be right in the morning. Bullshit. Bravo, must wet my lips. So yeah, but another downside is that she's been married to him for a while, and he's known none of this pastime of hers, this study of witchcraft, this innate knowledge of the occult. So when it all kind of comes out, he says, well, where did you find this out? And she goes, oh, darling, remember that holiday we had in the Caribbean 2 years ago? 2 years ago, yes. And then when that little girl that we thought had died, and the witch doctor brought her back round in front of her mother, and she was in a coma. Yeah. Well, I learned from him all the secrets of the occult. In that holiday, and in only 2 years, you've become this fantastic, demon